My parents tried to bribe me into supporting my sister, but I had other plans. Just look at it, Claire. My mom slides the envelope across the cafe table like it's a bomb she's trying to get rid of. The cheap paper scrapes over the wood and stops right in front of my coffee cup. My dad won't look at me. He's staring out the window at the car park like something fascinating is happening in the Aldi lot. My stomach tightens. I don't touch the envelope. I can already see the edge of a bank check peeking out, my name written in my mom's neat schoolteacher handwriting. What is this? I ask, even though I know. My voice comes out flatter than I intend. The cafe is too bright, too loud coffee machine hissing, cutlery clinking, someone's kid knocking a spoon on the floor. Mom leans in, perfume too strong, whispering like we're conspiring. It's help, she says. A head start. You're always going on about saving for a house. That's 10,000 pounds. If you support Liv, we'll make it 20. She says my sister's nickname like it's fragile. All we need is a statement. Just a few paragraphs saying you saw how Mark treated her, that you were worried. That's it. It was last November when everything properly exploded, but if I'm honest, the fuse had been burning for years. My sister Olivia has always been my parents' favorite. They'd deny it to their graves, but you don't grow up in a house without noticing which child gets the soft landing and which one gets, you're old enough to know better. Olivia is 2 years older and has been commanding a room since she was 4. Blonde, loud, quick with a joke. She was the kid who turned every school musical into her one-woman show. Teachers fawned over her. Relatives called her our little star. I was the quieter one, apparently bookish. Parents love that word almost as much as spirited. It sounds like a compliment, but mostly means easy to ignore. When we were little, I watched Olivia get away with murder. She'd smash a vase playing indoor football and blame it on the cat. Mom would sigh, mop it up and say, "At least you're not hurt." The one time I accidentally knocked a glass off the table, I got a lecture about being careful, about respecting the things we have. As teenagers, the pattern just upgraded. When Olivia stayed out all night at 16, Mom paced the hallway until she stumbled in at 3 a.m., mascara smudged and smelling like vodka. There were tears, a bit of shouting, and then the next morning they took her out for brunch to talk about choices. When I missed one family dinner at 19 because I had an exam the next day and needed to study, Mom sulked for a week and told relatives, "Claire's become so selfish at uni." Despite all that, I tried desperately to have a normal sister relationship with her. We had flashes of it in between the drama. Movie nights on the sofa. Sharing clothes before nights out. Her showing me how to curl my hair properly. Me helping her edit her CV because she always left things until the last minute. Then she met Mark. Mark was one of those guys who seem kind of bland at first because they're not performing all the time. Tall, quiet, IT consultant, lived in fitted shirts and slightly nerdy trainers. They met on some app. After the first date, she came home and flopped on my bed. "He's nice," she said, like it was an insult she couldn't quite believe. Like, actually nice. He listened. He remembered my brother's name even though I only mentioned Noah once. "Promising," I said, and meant it. I'd only ever seen her with chaotic guys who treated relationships like optional extras. It moved fast. Within a year, they were engaged. My parents were over the moon. Finally, their star was heading toward the ultimate milestone. A big white wedding. Planning that wedding is when I first really noticed the cracks. Olivia would sit at Mom's kitchen table with 5 different bridal magazines spread out like a crime scene, stabbing pictures with a pen. "This dress, these flowers, that venue, does it fit our vibe?" Mark would come in from work, loosen his tie, and say, "Hey, Liv, can we talk about the budget for a second?" She'd roll her eyes. "You're sucking the joy out of this. I just want to know the numbers," he'd say, still calm. "We can't have the country house and the live band and the open bar for 200 people. We earn what we earn. It's not about joy. It's maths." More than once, I saw her twist his worries into an attack. "You're calling me a gold digger," she'd snap. "You don't want to give me the wedding of my dreams. You're putting words in my mouth," he'd say. "I want to get married, not bankrupt." When I mentioned this dynamic to Mom, gently, she waved it away. "He's just a bit practical," she said. "Olivia's always been a dreamer. They balance each other. Sometimes it looks like she steamrolls him," I said. Mom frowned. Don't start, Claire. You're always looking for problems. The wedding happened. It was beautiful, I won't lie. Olivia looked like she'd stepped out of a magazine. There were fairy lights everywhere, and a string quartet and a cake so tall I was convinced it would topple over. My parents cried through the vows. During the speeches, Mark's best man mentioned how organized Olivia was, and Mum leaned over and whispered proudly, "She gets that from me." Like my years of color-coded planners had been erased. After they got married, things seemed fine from the outside. They bought a small house on the edge of town. They posted pictures of weekend hikes and restaurant meals. I'd go over for dinner sometimes. Mark and I would end up in the kitchen talking about podcasts and work politics while Olivia narrated whatever TikTok drama she was following that week. Then, about 3 years in, Olivia started coming to me more. Little comments at first. "He's obsessed with money," she'd say, pouring herself another glass of wine on my sofa. Like, if I buy a dress, he has to see the bank statement. "Do you have shared finances?" I'd ask. "Yeah, but still, it's controlling." "He's checking because it's shared," I'd say carefully. "Do you feel like you can't spend anything?" She'd shrug. "It's not that. It's his tone. I feel like a kid asking for pocket money. It's humiliating." I believed her because why wouldn't I? I also remembered all the times I'd seen her talk him into things, how skilled she was at spinning a story. But these weren't my fights. I wasn't in their house at midnight when they argued. I only saw fragments. The first big red flag for me was after Christmas 2 years ago. We were all at my parents' place. After lunch, half the family had fallen into food comas in front of some terrible movie. I went into the kitchen to make tea. Mark was there, staring at his phone, shoulders tense. "You okay?" I asked. He startled like he hadn't heard me come in. "Yeah," he said too quickly. "Just work." I made the tea. We chatted about trivial stuff. Then, when I was about to leave, he said, "Can I ask you a weird question, Claire?" "Sure." "If someone bought a new iPhone on a joint credit card after you both agreed not to spend anything big until the end of the month, would you be annoyed?" I thought about it. "I'd be confused," I said. "Why?" He sighed. "Never mind. I shouldn't have said anything. That's between me and Liv." He forced a smile. "Don't worry about it." Of course I worried. But you learn, especially in my family, that calling things out often ends worse for you than for the person causing the problem. So I filed it away. Fast forward to last November. I was at home, midweek, when my phone lit up with Olivia's name. "Claire," she sobbed as soon as I answered, "No hello." "I need you." My heart slammed into my throat. "Are you safe?" I said, standing up without realizing. "Can I come over?" She arrived 20 minutes later with a tote bag and red eyes. I made tea because that's what you do when you don't know what else to do. She paced my living room, words tumbling out, half coherent. "He's controlling, he's suffocating me, I can't breathe, I'm not allowed to do anything. He watches every penny, he called me childish in front of his friends." "Okay," I said, trying to make sense of it. "What happened tonight?" She hesitated, then blurted, "He found messages on my phone." "Messages?" "With someone. It's not important. The point is, he's saying he wants a divorce. He says I'm a liar, that I stole from him, that I'm manipulative. He said he'll make sure I'm left with nothing." I sat back. There it was, the thing under the thing. "Were you having an affair?" I asked, as gently as I could. She flinched. "It wasn't like that," she said. "It was. Talking. Maybe a couple of meetups. I just needed someone to remind me I'm fun. Mark makes me feel like a failure." "Did you use your joint money to see him?" She glared at me. "I knew you'd take his side." "I'm not," I said. "I'm trying to understand." We went round in circles for hours. She stayed the night on my sofa. The next day, she went to my parents. By the weekend, the narrative was set. To my mom and dad, Olivia was a battered wife without bruises. "She's been so unhappy," Mum said, eyes brimming. We didn't realize. "He's been isolating her, controlling everything. She shouldn't have texted that bloke," Dad added. "But she was desperate. Mark pushed her to it." I asked carefully about the money Mark claimed she'd moved from their joint savings into an account he didn't know about. Mum pursed her lips. He's exaggerating, she said. He's trying to scare her. Typical controlling behavior. They started using the language of domestic abuse they'd picked up from articles, but only in one direction. Anytime I suggested complexity, that maybe both of them had done hurtful things, I was shut down. You've always been jealous of Liv, Mum said once, shocking me. Maybe you like seeing her knock down a peg? A week later, Mark messaged me. I know you're in a tough position, he wrote. I won't drag you into anything, but my lawyer may ask for character statements from people who know us both. I just hope you'll be honest. I stared at that word. Honest. I thought about the envelopes of money Olivia had bought herself, the holidays she'd insisted on when Mark was worrying about the mortgage, the way she could cry on cue. I also thought about the nights she'd sat on my sofa genuinely panicking, the way his name made her shoulders creep up to her ears. Relationships are rarely tidy. Then my parents asked to have a proper chat, which is how we ended up in the cafe with the envelope. Back in the present, Mum pushes it a little closer to me. This isn't just about Liv, she says. It's about family. If Mark gets what he wants, he'll take the house. He'll ruin her. He's already telling people she stole from him, that she cheated. Do you want your sister living in some awful bedsit, working 2 jobs, never getting back on her feet? Dad finally speaks, still looking away. He's got a good lawyer, he mutters. We've seen the emails. He's thorough. If the court believes his version, she'll be lucky to get anything. But if he looks like the unstable one, controlling, aggressive, she'll be okay. By unstable, you mean abusive, I say. The check glows white in my vision. You want me to say I saw things I didn't? You saw how he spoke to her, Mum insists. You told me once you thought he was a bit sharp. I said he was stressed about money, I reply. That's not the same as calling him abusive. She deflates for a second, then rallies. It's all shades of the same thing, love. You're splitting hairs. Your sister needs you. And this, she taps the envelope, would help you too. We're trying to look after both our girls. Anger and something like grief crash over me in a wave that makes my hands shake. You could have helped me at any point in the last 10 years, I say quietly. With my rent when I was working 3 jobs, with my car when it died, with anything. You chose not to. But now when you need me to rewrite history for Liv, suddenly there's money? Dad winces. Mum's lips thin. That's not fair, she says. We've always treated you fairly. I laugh, a short, ugly sound. No, you've treated us equally when it cost you nothing, I say. Fairly is different. I don't take the envelope. Instead, with my heart pounding, I pull my phone out of my bag and open the voice recorder app. I don't hit record. I'm not quite that ruthless, but just feeling it in my hand steadies me. Let me be really clear, I say. I will not write a statement accusing Mark of being abusive, because I did not witness that. If I'm asked to give a statement, I'll answer any questions honestly. I will not call black white because it suits Olivia. Mum's eyes flash. So you're choosing him over your own sister? I'm choosing not to lie, I say. For anyone. Dad finally looks at me. Really looks, not just glances past. He'll win then, he says. He'll take everything. No, I say. He'll get what the court decides based on the truth. We sit in silence for a moment. The waitress comes over to clear our empty cups. Mum plasters on a smile for her, that brittle, polite one she uses on neighbors. As soon as the waitress leaves, Mum pushes her chair back. I don't recognize you anymore, she says. There's hurt in her voice, but also this hard edge that says I've stepped off the approved script. You've always been so rigid. All we're asking is for you to use the right words, to frame things properly. You're asking me to perjure myself, I say. That's the legal word. Dad's jaw tightens. That's dramatic, he mutters. I stand up. My legs feel like they belong to someone else. I'm not taking your money, I say. If Liv wants support, she can ask me herself, honestly. But I'm not going to be your useful little witness you can buy. Mum flinches like I've slapped her. We were trying to help, she says again, as if saying it enough times will make it true. Then help her face the consequences of her own choices. I say. That would be new. I leave the envelope on the table unopened. That night, I write an email to Mark's lawyer. I stare at the cursor for a long time, aware that anything I put down might be read aloud in a courtroom. I will not be providing a character statement that portrays either party as wholly victim or villain, I type. However, if subpoenaed, I will answer any questions truthfully. Then I do something that feels like it will either rip my family apart or finally force us into adulthood. I outline objectively the things I personally witnessed. I write about the arguments over money, how both of them escalated things. I mention the time I saw Olivia buy an expensive coat on their joint card after they'd promised each other to cut back for a while. I mention how Mark could be blunt, how he sometimes spoke to her like a careless manager instead of a partner. I mention the nights she spent at my flat because she couldn't stand to be in the same room as him, and the times she laughed about flirting with other men because it's harmless if I don't act on it. Right up until she did. I strip out anything that's not firsthand. No rumors, no assumptions, just what I saw. When I hit send, my hands are sweating. My parents find out because of course they do. A week later, Mom turns up at my flat unannounced, face blotchy, clutching a printout of my email like it's an exam paper I failed on purpose. "How could you?" she demands, standing in my doorway. "You handed him a weapon." "I handed the court facts," I say, stepping aside to let her in. "What they do with them isn't up to me." "Olivia is devastated," Mom says, like that's the trump card. "She says you've betrayed her." "I'm sure she does," I say quietly. But I told her I wouldn't lie for her. This shouldn't be a surprise. The case doesn't end in some explosive courtroom scene. Real life rarely does. There are negotiations, mediations, lots of emails. In the end, they reach a settlement. Olivia doesn't lose everything, but she doesn't get the cozy financial cushion she'd assumed as default. Mark keeps the house. She gets a portion of the savings, less than she wanted. There are conditions about debt. The court notes that both parties contributed to the breakdown of the marriage. My parents are furious. Not at her mostly. At me. For a while, I'm person non grata. They have family dinners where my place is conspicuously empty. I see the photos on social media and feel that old familiar knot in my chest. But this time it's different. This time my absence is my choice. I start therapy, something I should have done years earlier. I talk about the golden child, the scapegoat, the way my parents treated fairness like a scarce resource Olivia needed more than I did. My therapist listens without flinching. She gives me the language my family never had. Enmeshment, triangulation, conditional support. In the absence of the constant drama of pleasing everyone else, I have more mental space than I know what to do with. So I make a plan. I pick up extra hours at work, not because I'm trying to outrun the pain, but because I have a goal. Saving for my own life. On my own terms. I move into a slightly better flat with a friend, splitting costs. I stop waiting for my parents to suddenly, magically decide I've earned their help. Two things happen that cement my resolve. First, Olivia texts me out of the blue 3 months after the settlement. "I hope you're happy," she writes. "I told you how scared I was and you chose him. Have a nice life." I stare at the message, the same old script. Me as the betrayer, her as the wronged party. My thumbs hover over the keyboard. For once, I don't rush to explain myself. I write one sentence. "I love you, but I will not be your alibi." Then I put my phone down and let the silence sit. Second, my mom sends me an email titled Offer. In it, she explains, very carefully, as if drafting a contract that they've spoken to Grandma about, adjusting some inheritance plans so that I'm looked after if I'm willing to move past what happened and support the family going forward. No specifics this time about what support looks like, but I can read between the lines. It means choosing Olivia's version of events in every conversation, showing up to every function as if nothing happened, letting the family mythology snap back into place. I read it twice, 3 times. Then, calmly, I reply, "Hi, Mom. Thank you for thinking about my future. I'm making my own plans for that now. I won't be accepting any financial arrangements that come with strings attached about whose reality I'm expected to endorse. If you want a relationship with me, it has to be based on honesty and mutual respect, not transactions. Love, Claire." It's not a dramatic mic drop. There's no satisfying scene where they grovel and I sweep back in, triumphant. What happens instead is quieter, messier, and I think more real. My parents don't reply for a while. When they do, it's cautious. We're hurt, Mom writes. We feel like you've chosen a very black and white way of looking at things, but we don't want to lose you. We start seeing each other occasionally, one-on-one. Coffee with Dad, where we talk about neutral things. Football, his allotment, the weird neighbor with the gnomes avoiding the minefield. Walks with Mom where she circles around apology without landing on it. We did our best, she says often. We didn't always get it right. You could acknowledge where you got it wrong, I say once. She winces. We change the subject. Olivia and I are basically strangers now. She moves to a flat across town. I hear about her through Noah, who still floats between everyone, trying to be Switzerland. She's doing okay, he says. Dating someone new? Doing a course. Good, I say, and mostly mean it. I don't want her miserable. I just don't want to be the scaffolding holding up her version of herself anymore. My other plans, the ones that started as a stubborn refusal to be bought, grow in ways I couldn't have predicted. I apply for a promotion at work and, for the first time in my life, negotiate the salary instead of just accepting what I'm given. When my manager lowballs me, I say, I've done my research. Given my responsibilities and performance, I was expecting closer to X. My voice shakes, but I hold the line. He comes back 2 days later with a revised offer halfway between. I take it. I join a local hiking group because I realize most of my social life has been orbiting my family's schedule. I make friends who know nothing about golden children or divorce cases. When they ask about my family, I say, it's complicated. And sometimes, if I feel safe, I tell the longer version. More often, I tell them about my houseplant that won't die, or the time I set off the smoke alarm making garlic bread. I start tutoring on weekends, using the skills I've always had with kids and schoolwork. And for the first time, I get to be the grown-up who looks at the quiet middle child and says, I see you, without it being a big deal. None of this is flashy. There's no mansion, no dramatic court victory, no viral story about exposing my parents. But standing in my small kitchen one evening, cooking dinner in a pan I bought with my own money, in a flat I pay for myself, I realized something. The real bribe my parents dangled in front of me wasn't just the check. It was the idea that my worth could be measured in what they were willing to give me if I played my role. That if I just supported Olivia loudly enough, if I just agreed that up was down and black was white, I'd finally be welcomed fully into the family fold. My other plans were simple and radical at the same time. Tell the truth, even when it's lonely. Build a life where I don't have to bargain for scraps of approval. Choose my own integrity over inherited chaos. My parents tried to bribe me into supporting my sister. I won't pretend it didn't hurt, that it didn't make some part of me feel like a little girl left out of the game again. But I'm not that kid anymore. I didn't take the envelope. I took my own side.